All right. Welcome to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Broadhead. We started this podcast as a way to create a central resource of the best financial advisor practice growing tips shared by the most outstanding advisors and advisor supporters in the industry, of which our guest today is definitely one. These outstanding financial advisors and advisor supporters agree to be on the show and provide a ton of value for free, all in the hopes that our audience might learn from their words. My father was a financial advisor, and financial advisors are the main client we serve. So my marketing agency's mission is to help every financial advisor grow their business in an effort to help the world become more financially secure. Today, we have the rare pleasure of talking with an incredible financial advisor supporter, Amy Mullen. Amy, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you for having me. I'm president of Money Quotient, which was founded in 2001 by my mother, Carol Anderson, and she and I have been working with each other ever since the opening of our doors, essentially. And we focus on teaching financial planners basically the psychology and the emotional side of money, helping them to integrate discovery processes that engage both the heart and the mind of the client in order to build their motivation to follow through on the recommendations the advisor makes and adopt healthy financial behaviors. So we offer a whole suite of materials that they use with their clients during their meetings to help them raise their self-awareness, identify their core values, design a life that's going to be fulfilling and exciting for them. And then the advisor helps to really customize the strategies and align it with that vision.
Okay. Wow. So even more so than helping advisors become more aware of their own sort of emotional triggers and their own clients' emotional triggers, you're helping them to, expand even beyond that and design, their ideal life.
Yeah, yeah. I can share a little bit about kind of how we got into this. I think we'll give some insight into the direction that we've taken with our educational offerings. So this all began probably about 30 years ago, actually, when Carol, my mother, found herself left with a couple of young kids to raise on her own. And one of the things that she realized was lacking in her education was financial literacy. She struggled to figure out how to manage her own finances to take care of her young family, and that led her to looking into financial education programs, and also the realization that she was not alone. A lot of people also didn't have the financial education they really needed to make good decisions and adopt healthy financial behaviors. But one interesting bit of research that she just kind of came across is that even when people seek out financial education for themselves, the research shows that financial literacy programs have little to no statistical correlation to them actually adopting what they've learned, adopting financial strategies that they've learned in these courses. So all of that is to say, up to this date, financial literacy programs have been largely unsuccessful in getting behavior change by those being educated from those programs, which was pretty shocking to her. And it actually was the spark that led to her life's work. So she ended up going back and getting a master's degree and focusing her research on what is the missing piece here. Even if a person goes and seeks out that financial education, why are they not them acting on that education and adopting those financial strategies? And a lot of what she ended up uncovering and learning was that there's this whole emotional factor that's involved. And a lot of the financial literacy programs are essentially just fire hosing people with financial education without kind of tapping into the things that are really important to those individuals and that emotional brain to build the motivation to actually adopt or change their behaviors. It takes a lot for somebody to change their behaviors. And so there was these elements, these psychological, these emotional elements that have not been included in these financial literacy efforts that really can make a big difference in the outcomes that people see. So over the years, she continued her research. After receiving her master's degree, she continued on with research in this area and worked with various nonprofit organizations that were putting on research projects, but also developing new kind of more enhanced financial literacy programs. And after about 10 years or so of doing this sort of work and developing new resources, she had the idea of starting Money Quotient with the idea that financial planners in particular, also financial coaches, I don't think that there was that terminology around this time. Financial coaches is, kind of a new terminology that's come around in the last decade or so. But these are individuals that are uniquely positioned to be talking with their clients about both things that they are passionate about and emotional about in their life, as well as talking about their finances. And bringing those two together is really what motivates an individual to change their behaviors and adopt those financial strategies. So for the last 2+ decades, we've been teaching financial planners on how to integrate these things into their conversations with clients. It turns out that integrating these parts of the conversation, these elements into their discovery process, also greatly enhances the trust and the commitment that the client feels for the advisor as well. So there's a lot of research now that backs this more kind of holistic approach to financial planning that increases trust and commitment that the client feels for the advisor. It also increases their satisfaction with the services that they're receiving. It increases referrals to that advisor, retention rates. What else was it that was in our studies? It also increases their openness to share additional financial as well as personal information too. So all these business case variables, our research has shown having a more holistic or values-focused, values-based sort of approach to financial planning increases all these business case variables as well.
Wow.
That was a lot.
No, that's awesome. So you work with financial advisors to help them kind of organically incorporate financial literacy help for their clients that actually works for their clients.
That has effective results on the other end. So I can kind of give you an idea of what that would look like on a more kind of practical process, sort of. So I feel like financial planners, there's already an element of financial education that they give, when they're presenting their recommendations, they're teaching them about their investments, they're teaching them about insurance and how to understand statements and things like that. So there's quite a bit of financial education that's typically already incorporated into what advisors are doing with their clients. But the element that we bring into play is a large portion of it happens in the discovery process up front with a brand new client. And then also from year to year when they're meeting with their clients in annual meetings and checking in with them to see what's changed. A lot of the materials and resources that we have help add value to those long-term relationships, specifically to the annual meetings, and then doing deeper dives into topic areas like legacy planning and retirement planning, depending on when that becomes an important topic for the client in the relationship. But like right from the get-go with a prospect client, there are just some really simple, easy to complete questionnaires that helps broaden that client's awareness of how the breadth of topics that they can discuss with their advisors, or they should be discussing with their advisors. I think many planners are very aware that consumers have a pretty limited perspective of what advisors do. So part of the purpose of some of these initial questionnaires within a prospect is to broaden their awareness of what they can be talking with their advisors about, but it also helps them become aware of how each of the transitions that we experience in life, whether it's work transitions that we might be going through, or there's a lot of family transitions, whether it's, having a baby or buying a house, or, kids going off to college, or, any sort of family transition that they might be facing. All of those things have financial implications. So rather than the client coming to the advisor because they have questions about, their retirement nest egg that they have, or they have particular questions around their investment portfolio, they can also come to their advisor and say, we're beginning to plan for our kids who are leaving the house. We're going to be empty nesters, or we're considering a career change, or we're thinking about, our parents are aging and we're beginning to wonder about what their wishes are and how we might support them. So they might be coming to that advisor with a different perspective of what's actually going on in my life, and what are the financial implications of those transitions. So it's a little bit of a shift in perspective that these initial questionnaires for a prospect can really open up their awareness and help them to understand any transition in life is something that they could and should be talking with an advisor about in order to proactively plan for that. So up front, the materials are really about raising their awareness of everything that has financial implications. And then when that client becomes or agrees to move forward in a working relationship, then a lot of our money quotient materials helps the advisor and the client to do an in-depth data gathering process. So the advisor might be collecting all the financial information, but what our money quotient materials will do is help the client gain clarity around their own core values, initially understanding their own kind of perspective and preferences when it comes to their financial life, understanding their core values. Then they use those core values as a basis to develop a vision of what an ideal future would look like. So this is the part in which they really design a life that's going to be meaningful and exciting for them and purposeful. And that vision boils down to some very specific goals. And those goals become a good foundation for the financial recommendations that the advisor provides. But going through that process, one of the big outcomes of that, going through that process, raises their motivation to actually follow through and implement the strategies, but also change their financial behaviors. They get excited about that vision that they've created. They feel compelled to move forward and do something about it. So then that makes, talking about creating a cash flow plan, which nobody typically loves to do. Nobody loves budgeting. But when they have a vision that they're really excited about, suddenly these financial tasks aren't as much of a chore or onerous as they would be without something that's motivating them to do it. So we bring in that kind of life design piece and help them, identify what's going to be interesting, exciting, meaningful, purposeful for them. And then that really drives the motivation moving forward.
Okay. Wow. So the strategies that you use with the financial advisor, do they then use similar strategies with their clients?
Oh,
Is
this
that
is what we're teaching them to do with their clients.
this is what okay. So they did they also go through this process?
Well, in our initial training, we walk them through the process as if they were the client themselves. And the
Got it.
purpose of that is, of course, raising their own awareness of they typically have their own kind of perspectives and biases. So it helps them to recognize personally, but it also gives them an idea of what the client experience is going to be like. So they can feel themselves how excited they get about the future that they're designing, and they understand what the client is going to feel like when they start leading them through this very same process. So we're teaching
Got it.
them to do this with their client. Yeah.
Mhm. So it almost sounds like there's a component of like life coaching or business coaching. You're really you're adding additional relevant skills to a financial advisor's tool belt, if you will.
100%. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we take a very research-based and kind of multidisciplinary perspective when we develop a client experience. So we're looking at psychology, people's relationship with money, the psychology behind it. And I could talk for ages about that. But also like neurology, how an individual's brain works and how they make decisions and what's happening in what part of the brain. We also talk about like adult development. One of the there's the principles of adult education that we teach to advisors that helps them understand how do we create an environment in which an adult will want to learn and take that learning and actually adapt it. So there's the 6 principles of adult learning. We talk about effective communication skills. So we pull some tips and strategies from a style of communication called appreciative inquiry. And there's also a model, a pretty well-known model that takes some time to study and practice, but it's called motivational interviewing. So we take some skills from motivational interviewing, and we teach advisors how to be good facilitators. When you can become a good facilitator, you're going to see clients who feel committed to the plan. They feel as though they're in the driver's seat making the decisions, and they'll have more buy-in to the plan and therefore more follow through in terms of the recommendations.
That's awesome. So many follow-up questions. So how can this strategy help find new clients?
Well, I
These
think
tools.
it can the process and having expanding their conversations within their meetings with their clients can really differentiate the advisor
Mhm.
from, a typical experience that a client might have. So when we talk with advisors about how to set expectations with a prospect or a new client, we help them take a look at the language that's on their websites. We talk about, what do you send to a prospect in advance, and how do you, introduce your value proposition So your approach is probably different than many of the experiences that they've had. And how can you clearly communicate the benefits and outcomes of the more kind of holistic, values-based sort of approach that these financial planners have? So I think it can be a real differentiator. And I do think, most clients coming into a financial planning office, they don't have real clarity around what's most important to them, what their goals are. And there's kind of this like expectation, essentially, in a traditional financial planning setting. There's this expectation that people already know what they want. They already know what their goals are. They just simply have to communicate to that to the advisor, then the advisor will crank out all the numbers. But the truth of the matter is people have real fuzzy pictures of that. And they are frankly a little bit nervous or intimidated, thinking that they have to have it all figured out before they go see an advisor. So when an advisor can share with the client, you don't have to have it all figured out. I actually have a process as part of my, onboarding of a new client that helps you think it through. It helps you to gain clarity around what your priorities are going to be, what would be meaningful, and also to have those conversations with your partner or your spouse so that you can gain some clarity together. And then we will align the financial strategies with that. So you don't have to have everything figured out before you come in here. I will guide you through a process that helps you to make those decisions for yourself. And then we will align the strategy. And frankly, the response that we get from the advisors who are using the process is that it offers a lot of relief to that prospect client. And they tend to feel excited and relieved that they will be walked through a process that will help them figure things out.
Yeah. No, just looking at this from a client's perspective, that sounds nice. You've systematized the heart-based
Exactly.
aspects of
Yeah.
this business. Yeah.
Yep.
So what does it look like for the financial advisor working with you guys? Is it like, you guys work together for a month? Is this ongoing? What's the process?
Well, we work very closely with each advisor slash each firm that comes on board. Sometimes we have individual advisors who work within a firm that really want to take our approach. So it's not the entire firm who's using our materials, but just the advisor. Other times we have a whole firm that's interested in using our materials, which is really actually ideal because then you create a consistent client experience across all the advisors, and you can really do, a good job of setting those clients' expectations regardless of the advisor that they're going to work with. So ideally, it would be great if the whole firm was involved, but we also work with individual advisors as well. And the whole training that we offer and getting you up and running and fully confident in using the materials is approximately a 4-month period. So it starts with what we call the fundamentals of true wealth planning. And this is the initial high-level training. We do that either with a 3-day in-person training, or the other option is to do a 5 half-day virtual training. It's the same content. It's just laid out across a number of days in a different way. Both of these options for that initial fundamentals training have been accepted for 24 CE, which is a healthy chunk of the requirement by the CFP board for a 2-year period. And so that gives the advisor that high level understanding of how the process works. They experience it themselves as if they were a client. They also get to facilitate the process with another a participant in the training. So they begin to have the experience of what it's like to facilitate it for a client. They also understand what it's like to learn about a person they've never met before. So they see how the materials really help them to learn a lot about an individual. So again, that's kind of high level, understanding the full process, how it works. And then after that training is over, we have an online course that we call the implementation course. And this spans about a 3-month period. It's approximately 2 hours of commitment per week. We tried to make it easy to integrate into a very busy schedule. But the purpose of this implementation course is to help the advisor get very familiar with the whole library of resources. It's a pretty extensive library that goes into a lot of different resources around, like I said before, retirement planning, legacy planning, all kinds of different transitions a client can experience. There's resources for all those different life events that can be used. So we help the advisor get super familiar with the whole library. The more they're familiar with it, the easier it is for them to use them ad hoc with existing clients. But we're also teaching them these facilitation skills as well. So I mentioned appreciative inquiry. I mentioned motivational interviewing. We teach them some skills from these facilitation models, and we demonstrate them so they can see them being used, and then we give them the opportunity to practice and provide them feedback. All the while, they are implementing the materials in their practice. So we have like email templates. We have a ton of practice management resources. There's email templates, meeting agendas, things that are client-facing that they can easily integrate into their process. So they're building out their client experience. At the same time, they're learning facilitation skills. And at the end of that course, they should have their whole practical process fleshed out, and they should feel really confident moving into those meetings and having those discussions with their clients. So that's about approximately a 4-month period of time. And we are supporting them all along the way. A lot of the veterans in our community also act as mentors through this process. So they share how they've implemented the materials and answer a lot of the questions for the advisors.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. That sounds like the best way for a busy advisor to absorb all this information. So that's great.
It is quite a bit.
Yeah, and this all sounds awesome. You've really shared some great insights, and I've noticed, we've had 40 some guests, maybe 50 at this point. Some are very like heart-based, and we talk basically nothing about, the nuts and bolts of investing, and some are like, no, like this is all like quantitative. And it seems like you've figured out a way to help everyone focus on that heart-based serving, and that's awesome, and I would love to see more of that in the industry. So thank you for doing that. I want to take a step back and ask more kind of big picture stuff. So does your mother, you said her name was Carol?
Mm-hmm.
Carol, is Carol still in the business?
She is, and it's
Okay.
funny that you should ask this right now because she's actually retiring next month. So,
Whoa.
yeah. Carol Anderson, so one thing I didn't mention is that we actually have 2 sister organizations, and Money Quotient Inc. is where we train the financial planners, and we've developed our whole model that we teach them how to use. And then we have a nonprofit side called MQ Research and Education, 501c3 organization where we can continue to conduct our research. So Carol, that's really her passion, is this research and more deeply understanding people's relationship with money and what motivates them to take action. So we've continued to do that research on our nonprofit side, and then that research informs our trainings and our education to the advisors through our other organization.
Mhm.
And
Cutting edge.
yeah, yeah. So Carol's going to be retiring, and I'm going to be taking over the leadership of our nonprofit organization as well for a while we are working through this transition. We are excited to build a strong foundation on our nonprofit to keep the legacy of her work moving forward. And we're also planning in the near future to create a platform, a consumer-facing platform that can provide workshops and education to consumers through pro bono activities. So we have intentions to grow more of our kind of financial literacy type offerings that can be used by nonprofits and by financial advisors. I will say a lot of the financial advisors in our community who use our materials are also really interested in giving back and doing pro bono work with some of the clients that wouldn't necessarily meet their minimums or become, long-term clients for them. They still have a desire to, give back and help some of the underserved populations. So we're going to be building out a platform on our nonprofit side that will have good financial education, bringing both the emotional side into the financial education to hopefully have some good results over there. So we're hoping that's a part of carrying on Carol's work and her legacy that she started 35 years ago, which is surprising. It's a pioneer in this work. She was really one of the first to study this this overlap of kind of the emotions and the financial education.
Wow. Yeah, that's we don't often talk to someone who's doing the cutting edge research firsthand. So that's that alone is enough of a reason to sign up there, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome. Well, we are coming towards the end of our time. This is I'm so glad that I mistakenly booked you for this podcast because I love I love anyone trying to improve the world through financial literacy and helping everyone just live more comfortably and safely. So this is awesome. I super appreciate your time. My final question is normally what are you working towards? But I want to do a slight variation of that. Why was it important for you to continue your mother's work in this field?
Well, it's interesting because I actually originally went to school for photography, and I had started my own photography business when my mother, Carol, was starting Money Quotient. And I was working on building out my business in the Seattle area. And she asked me if I could help her start her business with the idea that it would be temporary and we would both be building out our practices, our new businesses. But interestingly, when I began to learn exactly what it was that she was doing, which I hadn't been interested before when I was younger, I fell in love with the work myself. And I think what really attracted me to this work was how it involves both kind of the right brain and the left brain. You have, the left brain that understands the math and the science behind it all. And, how do we work these numbers to help people in their lives? But then there's the art side of it, the creative side of it. in really kind of designing unique lives that are going to be fulfilling for people, and bringing those two things together was really interesting and exciting to me. So I ended up going back to school myself and designing my own degree program with all the foundational pieces, the psychology, the effective communication, adult development, coaching skills, these sorts of things. And I think one of the things that I have found to be so important, that's a strong value of both Carol and myself, is that I believe financial planners should really be focused on research-based processes, research-based materials to be using with their clients. There's a lot of shiny objects out there that people put and claim that they get good results with clients, but a lot of it is not really based on anything. It might have been somebody's idea, but I think it's important to be thinking about that multidisciplinary perspective. We need to understand parts of psychology. We need to understand parts of effective communication in order to do our jobs really well. So those, advisors who are lifelong learners, who are always looking to improve on their skills, they're going to be attracted to, spending a little bit more time and effort on really understanding what they're doing and what is effective with clients. And they're going to be interested in, a program like ours. It's not just a quick fix with a shiny new object. It is, taking some time and effort to really learn about this. But that's part of the reason why it's important to me to carry on my mother's work in our nonprofit side and continue the research, because we have a very kind of high standard for that. Everything that we teach and everything that we create is research-based and it's evidence-based. So I want to continue to have that high standard as we move forward.
Yeah, and that is such a flex to, you guys are doing the direct research yourself. That's incredible. So Amy, where can our audience find out more about you?
Well, the easiest thing to do would be to go to our website, which is moneyquotient.com. And then you can also, there's a link on our website that goes to our nonprofit website as well. So you can easily get in there that way. But our nonprofit website is mqre.org, and that stands for Money Quotient Research and Education. So mqre.org. We would love contributions to our nonprofit organization too, that goes towards, helping us create like that platform I mentioned. It helps fund our research as well. So you'll find a place that you can donate to our nonprofit for these efforts on the front page of our nonprofit website. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Amy N. Mullen, N as in Noel. Amy N. Mullen is my handle on LinkedIn. And we also have a company page, Money Quotient, on our LinkedIn as well. So you can follow what we're doing there too.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And we will be sure to link to all of those in the show notes. Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today. This was great.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, awesome. All right, and to all our listeners out there, thanks so much for tuning in, and keep on growing out there, everybody. See you.